to listen to the convo.
Tip, your
And-
dad, you're a father of two. I get it. It's hard. We're on.
Are we live?
We're live, boys. Wait for a few
we
people
are.
to get in here, and then we will be rolling.
I got to tell you, boys, I got done mowing the yard about an hour ago. It's warm. It is.
Is it hot down there as it is here in Tennessee?
It's going to be 100 on Monday next week.
Mm.
So that's very exciting stuff.
It's hot. There's just no way getting around that.
No. I don't know if it's just me. I do not see it
I retweeted it.
live on the YouTubes yet. Really?
Oh,
Mine popped
Yeah, it's
up.
it's on YouTube.
How about that?
America, go to the YouTubes right now.
Got it.
I may actually have that. Let's see if I have that
America, go to the YouTube right now.
right now.
Oh boy.
Just only so much a man can take in July.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Why
I'm sorry.
you-
Did your house get hit by a tornado?
I will add you to the
I mean,
prayer
we
list.
had. I mean, no, but
Columbus had some storms a couple days ago.
we
Got
did.
a little rain. Sorry to hear it.
Yeah. Should we start a GoFundMe for you, or start a charity, or what? I saw you out there. I saw Michaela posted you picking up some branches. I'm being serious. I'm not.
Branches, they call them, huh? Call them branches. Call them trees.
Okay.
Fence is gone.
You ever had to? Is your fence all the way wooden, all the way in the back too, or is your in the back? Is it chain?
It's wood all the way. Pure wood, hard knocks. Fired up for that, by the way. New York Jets, hard knocks. That's going to be a good one. Pretty excited for that.
And first person in the chat today on YouTube, guy we know. Actually, I've never met him, but Sergeant Sprouse, I believe, out of Georgia Southern, Mr. Friedel.
Sergeant Friedel. What's up, brother?
Friedel. Mispronounce his name. My bad.
He's got to be fired up because he's got Lenny Bevel and all the country stars supporting the Eagles down there in Statesboro. They might get him a new cannon. They got enough money down there in Statesboro that strength coach that tried to sue them or whatever for getting his ears blown off by Sarge's cannon right there. I mean, they might be able to just buy that guy off. You know?
I'm with it. We ready to get this show on the road or what?
Yeah, I'm really struggling on my phone right now. But
Must have that Google phone that just came out, the flip one.
it's probably because Elon's changing Twitter to X.
Heard that.
What Elon?
SpaceX, Twitter X.
He's fighting Zuckerberg and UFC or something too. Did you see
He
that?
might get dropped.
I'm gonna tell you what, Zuckerberg looks like he can fight. I mean, he's swole now.
Yeah.
Imagine that guy's got it all now. Not only is he a nerd, a really smart guy, he's obviously rich. Now he's in shape and can fight. Talk about an alpha.
All right.
Anyway, Jeff, you tell me when to go, boss.
All right. Let's do this thing.
Welcome into the #1 Group of Five football podcast in the world. We are the Group of Five guys. Our goal and our mission is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs that the mainstream sports media continues to get worse and worse at doing. So we need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys. Go to groupof5guys.com. Get you some merch, which, by the way, we got some new merch coming, I would say, within the next couple of weeks. And then go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to Group of Five Guys. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Leave a comment. Most importantly, tell your family and friends all about us. On this show, it's Tuesday night. Nothing better than Tuesday night Maction. We got MAC preview. We got a special guest CSC podcast, Alex, joining us. He's the expert in the MAC. Can't wait. Enjoy the show.
Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
Lee Corso is a guy who had a retirement party 10 years ago, and yet he still won't leave the office.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible. The wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the group of 5.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
I really appreciate you do for the Group of 5 programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of 5 because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
I appreciate what you guys do, truthfully. Covering the Group of 5. Y'all said it earlier, but the Sun Belt to me is college football.
Boys, we got conference media days happening this week. You got people all over the country giving their hot takes, getting some sound bites, getting some predictions. Coaches are voting, conferences are voting, coaches are pissed. One coach in particular is not happy. Certainly not as happy as he was when Jeff Murphy delivered him an authentic Italian salami stick in Charlotte, North Carolina, right before the spring game. Biff Poggi is real upset down there, joining the new conference, joining the American at Media Days, Jeff.
We're in that game, and we want to be in it, and we're going to stay in it. That's it. 3 questions. Maybe that's because you have us ranked last. That's all what you think of us. So that we get that message. Thank you.
I love Poggi, dude.
Listen,
He's such a sav. He's a paisan through and through.
I'm going to say I like the guy. I'm sure his team loves that. But that dude, and I'm sure he doesn't care about this, but is going to quickly become the most disliked coach in that conference. And he better win some games with some of them sound bites he's giving right now.
Yeah, but I'm with him though. Like, I don't understand how new coach, new conference. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I would say they are up there with the most transfers in all of college football coming in. Like, how do you only have 3 questions for him? Like, I have 10 right off the top of my head that I feel like we could ask him. And it's just like once again, you just have the same reporters that do the same song and dance, and they want to talk to the same 2 or 3 teams. I mean, even in the American. So everyone's counting Charlotte out.
I think it's definitely under the table face slap. It's a lot of disrespect. It's like Americans kind of probably still ticked off. They lost their 4 babies. Or 3 or 4 babies going to the Big 12, and now they're seeing the Charlottes come in, and it's kind of like a hazing type deal. They're not going to give them any respect. Not give them any respect. You got to earn your stripes here in the American. But like you said, Jeff, especially coming off like a documentary on HBO not too long ago, all the transfers, you can't tell me there's not some questions. And I saw some tweets that said, well, a lot of questions were asked after the main media conference, but come on, man. 3 questions. If I was Biff, I'd be pissed. I'm surprised he didn't drop a curse word, 1 or 2, because it's just disrespectful. And it's going to lead to them definitely getting more than 3.5 wins. Don't take betting advice. I'm a horrible gambler, but I would take the Charlotte over 3.5.
We're going to dig into the American in a couple of weeks. Some of the new teams to the American, at least their Twitter fans, are coming in extremely cocky. Charlotte fans, Florida Atlantic fans,
oh yeah,
UTSA, UTSA rightfully so, but some of these other ones, man.
I
don't know.
put a tweet out today talking about bowl season past 10 years, who highest percentages, and Sunbelt was number one, and I think it was Mountain West and then American, but Sunbelt was, beating on their chest. And here comes UAB saying like, well, y'all play MAC teams and Conference USA teams all the time. It's like, buddy, you've been in the American for a month. All right, let's calm down. Get off your blazer.
Well, hold on. Didn't UAB lose to a MAC team last year, or did they beat Toledo? Right? I don't know. I know they played somebody in the MAC. I can't remember. Bahamas Bowl might have been Miami.
It wasn't the Bahama Bowl. No, they won. They won.
By 24-20 maybe, something like that. Anyway, all right, UAB. I mean, come on, guys. Hey, you're right. You know what it is? This is remember. Well, hold on. Remember last year, right before the bowl season, when we were talking about predictions, and I was like telling everybody, I was like, I'm rooting so hard against UCF, Houston, all these, because they're like acting like they've been these historic programs in the Big 12 for decades. Here we are. UAB, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic have been in the American for a month and a half, and they are just, they got
your
history,
true colors come out, Sprouse. People still think of the American as still like the top conference, even though we all talk about Sunbelt. I guess there's just more money in the American. So once you get there, you think your next stop is the Power Five, and then you're going to start talking nonsense. But I can't say I'd probably be the exact same type of fan. I'm criticizing the guy. I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
Well, so what's up, Jeff? You got one more thing?
Well, I got one more to add to it. A team that they're acting pretty brand new too, and as they should be. But I've been going back and forth with a lot of Liberty fans because of my Jamie Chadwell clip from last week's episode. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't even say that Liberty was not going to be good. All I was saying was, I think there's a lot of questions on that team right now, and all these Liberty fans are just coming out of the woodworks. I'm like, did you guys even listen to the clip?
He got called a dope.
Yeah, I was like, dope?
He did. What a dope.
I was this close to retweeting it, but I didn't do it.
You could have, but there's a lot of things you can call me dope. I don't know if that's me.
Call him a schmuck.
There you go. I could be known as a schmuck every once in a while.
Well, we got to get to the MAC. We got to get to MACtion. The one conference that everybody's still the same. Still the same teams hanging out.
Most loyal conference.
That's right. And Jesse, you put out that tweet, but last year the MAC won the overall bowl challenge, going 4-2. So best record in the FBS.
I'm going to, shit on myself here because I've been going on for about 2 or 3 years talking about how the MAC is just king of bowl season. And so I said, I'm going to find some numbers here just to support my statements. And I've never been more wrong. They are, I can't remember the exact percentages, but they were about 38% they won in 33% they won in bowl percentages. But that being said, they did go 4-2. They normally compete really hard in all these bowl games. I enjoy the MAC on bowl games. The reason they lose probably because I bet a lot on the MAC team, so I would take responsibility for that 33%. But it should be a fun year in the MAC this year. It's always my fault.
Well, Jesse, to your point though, I mean, you looked at your sample size was 10 years. I bet if you
10 years.
narrowed that down to 5 years, that's when we've recently been seeing how competitive these MAC teams have been just in these recent years, and how we always talk about they're just constantly like beating up on each other every year. So I bet you if you looked at the last 5 years, that percentage would be a lot higher.
Well, Tip, that's 2 analytical reports, and I'm just not going to do that in one day. It's just not going to happen. It's a lot.
Well, and last thing I'll say on this, as we are a little bit new to the so-called media game, you can find any stat you want to support whatever idea you have. So you could have been like, MAC dominates bowl games. Just look at last year. And you would have been fine. You would have been right. But anyway, what order? Let me ask you guys this. What order do you want me to go in? Last week, you guys got all hot and heavy because I saved myself for last to round it about. I'm going to do Tip before Jesse, no matter what. So I may go Tip, Jesse, Murph.
So you go, I mean, any which way you want, but we did have a handful of callers this week that called in and left voicemails. I don't know if we want to hit those before we get to the nitty gritty MAC stuff, because honestly, a couple of these callers, they have some really, really good points on a couple teams in the MAC. So I think it'd be a good way to kick it off if you're good with it, Sprouse.
Let's kick it off, and let me just remind everybody, you can catch our Conference USA preview from last week. It's live, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. obviously doing the MAC tonight. Next week, we got Mountain West. Following week, we're going American. And then the week after that is Sun Belt. So you fans of those three conferences, call the hotline, 615-900-4286. About a 99% chance we're going to play your voicemail on this show. So call the hotline. We really appreciate the support, guys. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, let's get right to it. This first caller is a JMU fan, so we'll get him out of the way first, and then the rest of them are all MAC calls. But appreciate the call as always. This is a first-time caller. His name's Kyle Adams.
Hey, this is Kyle F. Adams on Twitter or X, and I'm a JMU alum and fan, and just want to give you some trip-worthy insight into a few of your new conference mates over at Conference USA. Let's start with Sam Houston. Now, I will admit that Sam Houston did beat JMU, but during that game, I'll tell you one thing that's probably worth the 3 points of that victory. They actually stuck their visiting team, JMU, in a tent outside for their locker room. I understand they're going through some renovations, but I think that alone is probably worth 3 points. So that's my little ding on Soft Houston. Remember that name. They're now referred to Soft Houston, not Soft Houston State. And let's go ahead and talk about the next team, Liberty. Now, being in Virginia, everyone loves to hate Liberty, and we often refer to them as the Fighting Falwells. Now, I truly believe they're going to do an amazing job, and that's because all of the online school money that they bring in. So it's a little bit of an unfair advantage that they get all the Jesus dollars. Now, the other thing I think you should be more excited about is that both Casey Keeler and Jimmy Chadwell are the most annoying head coaches that you could possibly imagine. So I would love to see those two go head to head in a conference and see who comes out on top as the most annoying head coaches. So would love to hear some of your feedback on your new conference mates, and good luck dealing with those new teams.
Appreciate the call, Adam. This guy's got some experience. James Madison fans, they're ruthless. They can't stand anybody else in that territory.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad one of them was willing to say who they were and say their name calling in the show. Jeff.
I agree.
That's got to be the first time. And also, a tent on the sideline, I mean, I call it home field advantage. I mean, let's not pretend like the visiting locker room in Murfreesboro is some kind of a luxury facility. You remember that summer we had to use it all summer as they were renovating a decade ago. Still have the same one, but they still won the game, man. I mean, I don't know. Well, anyway,
it's very rare to find a guest locker room that you're like really impressed with. Because I remember we played Troy, they made you run 250 yards to the locker room. Remember Louisiana, you had to run through 100-yard no AC tunnel to get elevated, so you had to get a workout in to get to your locker room. FIU, no AC, the size of this room I'm in right here. I mean, that's part of the game, man. University of Tennessee, remember
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. They ran out of hot water after 10 minutes after the game. Everyone was taking cold showers, which honestly is not the worst thing in the world, but that thing was tiny. It was leaking water all over the place. I mean, SEC my ass. But
you talking about cold showers? Or I'm sorry.
No, but appreciate it, Kyle. Keep them coming, especially when the season gets here with JMU, and we got our Sunbelt show coming up soon. So, all right, this next caller did not leave a name. Not sure exactly who this guy is, but I think I have an idea.
Rocky Lombardi will be the MVP of the MAC. Dark horse.
That's all he's got. Rocky Lombardi, MVP.
I got a couple things. He didn't leave his name. It's 100%. It's definitely a Northern Illinois, a Midwestern accent there. I'm willing to bet that gentleman's got a last name Lombardi, but I don't know for sure. But hey, I agree with him though. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, I was going to wait for the build up for the talking about the MAC, but I'm going to go ahead and spill it right here. I love NIU this year. I love it. I have reasons to support it. I like Rocky Lombardi. Can't wait to talk about it. I'm sure I see Sprouse shake it or nod his head. I'm fired up to talk about Northern Illinois. It's really going to be the Northern Illinois podcast for me because I think it's going to be that year.
Interesting. Can't wait to get to it.
Coming in hot. Swaggy. I liked it, though. I liked NIU last year, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah. If Lombardi can stay healthy.
That's right.
It's going to be they're going to be really good, I think. All right, we'll get to our next one. A good boy we hadn't heard from a while. Our boy Terry Johnson gives a little MAC information for us.
Hey, Group of Five guys. Terry Johnson, T-Money, _72 here. Calling for your MACtion episode. I just want to put out, I'm a huge fan of MACtion, and I'm a huge fan of the Ohio Bobcats. Man, they've kind of become, like, you'll hear some Ohio players talk about how much they hate Louisiana. We kind of spanked them the past 2 times we played them. But, you know, I really love that team. I love Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke for Heisman. I would love for a Sunbelt team to be the Group of Five representative in the New Year's Six this year. But if it can't be a Sunbelt team, I want it to be Ohio. Curtis Rourke makes that team. I mean, they have really good running back. I think Bagura is named. They have some good receivers. I mean, Curtis Rourke is really good. I can't wait for week 0, San Diego State and Ohio. That's going to be an awesome game to watch. I cannot wait to watch that week 0 after a long week underway. Y'all know I'm in the Navy, so I'm going to come back. I'm going to watch that game on that Saturday. Then they play LIU. Then they play FAU. That's going to be a fun game. Then they play Iowa State. I think they're better than those. I think because of Curtis Rourke, they're better than all of those teams. I think they can make a run for it. Of course, with the MAC, you never know. A team can go 75 and still win the conference championship. Who knows? It could be Akron for all we know. But that's my take. Curtis Rourke for Heisman. I believe in Ohio Bobcats, of course. I'm going to go for Sunbelt over everybody, but if I can't choose anybody else, it's going to be Ohio. God bless Group of Five. God bless Group of Five, guys. Go Cajuns.
Appreciate it, Terry. I'm with him. Curtis Rourke he's a stud. Absolute stud.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks in this conference, but you don't, the average person probably hears MAC and you're not thinking high-level quarterback play. But this year in particular, I mean, I think you got 5 or 6 of them that, depending on health, could decide this conference.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we got 2 more. This next one is pretty quick. It's kind of hard to understand him. His phone was kind of cutting in and out, and I think it might have got cut off, but we'll play it real quick since he called in. So,
hello, this is Kempton, Stimberside, and I got to predict the Eastern Michigan Eagles going to win the MAC championship this year. This coming from 29 Shine. Group of 5.
Yeah, and I think he got cut off, but I think Eastern Michigan is going to be a really, really good team coming out of that side. So, and I got some stuff on them for later too.
Sneaky good team.
Yep.
I say sneaky good. They won 9 games.
I was going to say they won not. Yeah.
So like, it just gets kind of overlooked by.
They kind of get lost.
How good Toledo. Yeah. Yep.
I say that last year, y'all come laughing at me, but now this year you're like, I get 9 wins. Now you're on board, huh? You're going to jump on that train, huh? Jumping off that train. They ain't getting near 9 wins this year. Keep it going.
Well, we'll get to our last one. Second time calling in, Dan Savage. Appreciate the call.
What's up, guys? This is Dan Savage, second time caller. Just calling to talk a little bit of MAC real quick. I think in week 3, you guys need to get to the Glass Bowl to watch Toledo play San Jose State. It's going to be a fun one, going to be a sellout crowd. But when you guys are breaking down these schedules, I think there's something that you really need to see, and that's strength of schedule. When we talk about the Access Bowl or the G5 conferences, there's probably 2 things that you need. You probably need a Power 5 win and a gaudy record. And in the years recently past, the AAC has ran through everybody. The Sun Belt's kind of cannibalized itself. And you've seen some years where the Mountain West has had a few good teams, but, late in the year, you play Boise, San Diego State, it gets tough. In the MAC this year, you got Eastern Michigan, who plays one game against Minnesota, and then it's like Jacksonville State and UMass, and an FCS team. So that team, Eastern Michigan's probably going to win 9-10 games. In the MAC, you got Toledo, who opens up at Illinois, which is pretty winnable as far as Big Ten standards go. And then they get San Jose State, UMass, and who's the last team they play? Well, it doesn't matter. And another pretty good, easy win. And then Ohio, who gets Iowa State at home. So if you're going to play a Power 5 team, you want to play them at home. And they open up at San Diego State in week 0. That's 3 MAC teams that are probably going to win 9 games. So you just need one of those teams to win the MAC, and the AAC lost its 3 of its 4 best teams. And the Sun Belt's going to eat itself alive. So don't be shocked if the MAC wins the Access Bowl this year. Toledo has 4 of its first 5 games at home on Saturdays in September. So look for them to maybe be 5-0, creeping into that top 25, and then just holding on for dear life. The big game on our schedule this year probably is in the middle of the season at Miami of Ohio. Miami is going to have a good defense like always. We'll see how their offense shakes out. But Toledo hasn't played Miami since 11 years. We were getting stir crazy and maybe hoping for a bowl game against Miami of Ohio just so we could play them again. So that'll be one of your fun mid-season matchups. And also can't wait to watch Conference USA in October this year in midweek. That'll be fun for the G5. And keep doing what you do, guys. Love you. Peace out.
Great call, Dan. Appreciate it. It's some really good points.
Toledo's going to be really good.
Yeah.
They're going to be really good.
I don't know what the Eastern Michigan hype's all about, though. I really don't. Their schedule, they may start out lazy, but they got to go to Jacksonville State, new hungry Conference USA opponent. You got to go to Buffalo. They got to go to Toledo. They got to go to NIU. I don't see how they're going to, pan out and get 9 wins. I don't see it. Boom. Don't see it.
That's where I'm at.
They're the king of the road, though. They have been very, very good on the road the last handful of years, and I think they're going to continue that. And we'll get to some more points on them, but look out for Eastern Michigan. So I think you're wrong here.
I was right last year. I'll be right this year, too.
Is that all we got for voicemails, Jeff?
That's it. Appreciate all the calls. Keep them coming. We want your hottest takes. Tell us where we're wrong, whatever it is. And more of you is always better.
I like it. You guys keep those calls coming. 615-900-4286. Maction, here we go. Going in a different order. Tyler Tipton, number 1. Biggest question mark in the MAC 2023. What do you got?
My biggest question mark is mainly geared towards the beginning of the season, and it is how healthy is Ohio quarterback Curtis Rourke going to be to start the season. So he tore his ACL against Ball State in week 12 last season. That was 8 months ago. And so by the time the season starts, you're looking at probably about 10 months since the injury and the surgery. Normal recovery time for that is 9 to 12 months. So that's right there in the middle of that healing time. So I'm just interested to see, and they're one of the few teams in the MAC playing in week 0. So they're playing a week earlier than a majority of the other MAC teams. Now you see mostly with ACL injuries, it can affect more of your like your wide receivers, your running backs, kind of players that are cutting on the field more often than maybe a quarterback is. But Curtis Rourke's a little bit of a runner himself. He ran the ball 74 times last season, had 249 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's a little bit of a dual threat quarterback. So I'm just interested to see how he looks at the beginning of the season. And they play. Let's see what the schedule is. They play at Bowling Green week 4.
Yeah. Well,
so
that's what I was going to say. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it'll be interesting to see how they play that, because they don't play a conference game until week 4, and then they're off. So it's Bowling Green, who, it's Bowling Green, and then they're off. So it depends on how they want to play it. Do they want to go all in and try to beat San Diego State, FAU, and Iowa State, or do they say, hey, let's win the MAC? And
it's something they definitely got to think about for sure. Because to your point, Sprouse, they got to have him ready for that early MAC
right.
game at Bowling Green week 4. I mean, that's a game he has to be ready, try to be 100% healthy, as healthy as he can be for that game. So that's a great point, Sprouse. I mean, how do they handle those first 4 games of the season with him?
What's that quarterback's name again? The one that came in for Curtis Rourke. What's his name?
I can't remember it off the top of my head.
That's what we're talking about here, isn't it? The guy that he ended the season last year and he played.
No, we're talking about Curtis Rourke.
We're talking about Curtis Rourke.
Well, Curtis Rourke got hurt, and then they brought in.
Well, I don't know, but
am I not making any sense here? Am I not making any sense?
You're making sense. We can't remember the guy's name, but that's not what Tip was talking about. We're not.
Cool. Okay. That's all.
What are you going?
My point is, you know what? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'll make sure I'm not.
CJ Harris.
There you go.
Okay, no, CJ Harris. Thank you. That kid had a great bowl game last year, from what I remember. But what he did against Toledo was atrocious in the MAC championship game, if y'all can remember. Granted, did I have money on that game for Ohio? Of course.
There it is.
But that kid has to get better, because if Curtis Rourke does not play, I can guarantee you FAU is going to win. And I guarantee you they're going to start the season off not on a good note. Curtis Rourke, when I researched today, I don't think he's completely healthy. So I guarantee you they're probably going to save him for the MAC. But CJ Harris, son, get it going.
I don't know.
I brace on him.
I think
put a knee brace on him.
I think he's going to be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from a guy who tore his ACL, it's 6 months. I mean, they have you running. I mean, he's going to be, what'd you say, Tip, 9 or 10 months by the time the start of the season?
Yeah, it'll be right around 10 months.
I think he's going to be good to go. I think he will have a brace on it. And if he doesn't at that first game, he's 1,000% good to go.
Well,
so he's got, the thing is too, he's got all the talent around him.
Yeah.
All he has to do is play point guard. He might not, he might be a little ginger at the beginning running the ball, because that is part of his game. But they're going to be smart with him. They'll roll him out. They'll do what they need to do. And all he's got to do is play point guard, get it to those skill guys, and they're going to take care of the rest.
Well, that's where, like I was saying, how does Ohio play it? That's something for sure. They're not going to have him running all over the place in those first couple games. I mean, they'll be running the ball, keeping him in the pocket as much as they possibly can. But
that makes more sense. I mean, 10 months. Okay, I guess I did horrible research. Yeah, he should be back, for God's sakes.
I mean, I would hope so.
Where we are this day and age, and
that's right.
You can actually lose your leg, they'll sew it back on you. You're back out there in 6 months.
Yeah,
so
you just never know. I mean, like I said,
it's definitely a big question, though.
You see it more in skill position players. You see it maybe closer to the 12-month mark, to where they're finally back fully healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I was going to go to swag next, but my question mark is pretty much on that same deal. I don't know if everybody's is, but my question mark is, which quarterback stays healthy, if any? I mean, last year, Lombardi at NIU missed 8 games. DeQuan Finn got injured late in the year. He missed a couple games. And then Rourke missed the last few weeks. Gabbert at Miami was out most of the year. And Gabbert's one, I hate to use this term, but it seems to be a little bit injury prone. So he's hurt often. So which one of those guys is going to be healthy? And then to Jesse's point, which backup comes to play? Or which one of these other schools does DJ Irons at Akron come out and have some kind of a, magical season? Yeah, I mean, and they got a bunch of transfers too. So
I feel terrible though, Sprouse, because if CJ is listening, he had a phenomenal bowl game. He did not have a good MAC championship game. Let me just tell you, CJ Harris, that is, at Eastern Michigan. I'm not sure how old he is, but he did not have the best year. But I was looking through all of my notes today, and I'm like, good Lord Almighty, how many quarterbacks got hurt?
They all did. I mean, honestly, and all the top ones did. And that's, to me, that's the entire season. And then you got to look at the schedule, right? So, Miami and Ohio play relatively late. So will Gabbert and Rourke both be healthy that late in the season? So it's, then you look at Toledo. Toledo's got, I mean, their schedule. I mean, they got NIU pretty early. So late in the year, their schedule softens up a little bit. So with Finn, they got hurt a little bit later last year. But I don't know. This whole conference comes down to all these teams. NIU, we talked about could be really good, but if Lombardi gets hurt, their season, I mean, that's it. If Miami's going to be very good, if Gabbert gets hurt, that's it. Ohio, if Rourke gets hurt, I mean, so that's my question mark. Which quarterback stays healthy and or which backup comes in and performs?
It's halfway through the year. It's Tuesday night Maction. You know, Mac is back with the second string quarterback. You know,
wow.
I like that.
But anyway, Swaggy, what's your biggest question mark for 2023?
Biggest question mark, the team I'm looking for is the team out of all group of 5 that had the most disappointing season. That's I'm looking at Northern Illinois. How are they going to bounce back from coming from a MAC championship in the previous season to having they won like 3 games, 3 wins?
Yeah.
I'm more interested in this because I feel like we can kind of relate to that. They came from a team that was outstanding, bringing back a bunch of starters, and then entering the season and only getting 2 to 3 wins. Kind of like what we did back in 2011. What did we do 2012? I'm excited to see NIU because I think they're going to bounce back. And that's my biggest question mark. Will they be able to bounce back?
Well, here's the thing on NIU too. So not only did Lombardi get hurt and miss a bunch of games, and who, by the way, was having a fantastic year before he got hurt, but they ended the season with a freshman walk-on playing a lot of quarterback for that team. So in my opinion, they have the best O-line in the MAC. Not only did they get Lombardi back, but they get the number 1 receiver, Trayvon Rudolph, back. So again, if they're healthy, they should be very good. And also, last year when we did our MAC preview, Tip mentioned how NIU in 2021 won a bunch of very close games, 7 games by less than 10 points. Last year, they flipped it and they lost 5 games by 10 or less points. So, turnovers, special teams. I mean, you got a freshman walk-on quarterback. I don't care if he's going to be a future star. Surely he wasn't ready, and he was probably 4th on the depth chart. He probably got half-assed tape before the game, thinking I'm not going to play. And the poor guy gets stuck in there and then ready to go. I mean, and no real fault of his own, but I think that'll change. And I'm with you. I look forward to NIU this year for sure.
And just from experience, there is nothing worse than when you think you're not going to play and you're not mentally prepared to play. And then, the 1% thing that could happen happens. And next thing you know, you're in there and you were just not prepared. So you have to be always prepared to go in and save the day. Just for all you young listeners out there, always be mentally prepared.
Is that Purdue circa 2010 for you, Jeff?
I actually had a phenomenal game against Purdue, but there are countless times where I was not. I mean, it's happened to me more than several times.
Oh man!
Because in Purdue, I didn't expect to play, and yet I had.
But you were young.
2 servings of. I was redshirt freshman, but I had 2 servings of spaghetti for the pregame meal and garlic bread, and I was out here thinking, like, all right, you got this fish. You got because Fish was our right tackle. He goes down with a crazy double ankle high sprain, and I'm like, they say Grisham. I'm like, who?
Grisham.
I said, who, me? I'm over here throwing up on the sidelines at 102-degree heat. But hey, you live and learn. That's what I did. Ever since then, I ate grilled chicken. I didn't care if I thought I was going to play or if I was starting. I ate grilled chicken, and that was it.
There you go. Murph, biggest question mark for the MAC 2023.
I don't know if it's the biggest question mark, but it's definitely a question mark that I have. And we kind of, I kind of stated this earlier. I think Eastern Michigan is going to be sneaky good, but I think the question mark for them is Austin Smith. Can he be the guy that pushes them over the top? Because I think they have a lot of pieces on offense with Samson Evans. Receiver Tanner New is a really, really good receiver, and they had a connection there towards the end of the season, and their defense is returning 7 starters. I think, and I love their schedule. I think their schedule sets up very, very nice for them to make a run. And like I said before, they've been a team that has been able to win on the road, and they have some big road games down the stretch. But can Austin Smith be that guy? He's got to get his completion percentage up. He was 57% last year in the games that he played, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions out of the 6. 6 to 4 is not a good ratio. He has got to get those picks down. And if he can do that, I think they have enough talent to do some damage and win some big MAC games down the stretch. So can Austin Smith be that guy?
Have they, Murph, not to put you on the spot, have they always been like, have they been consistently that good on the road, or is that just a last year thing? Because originally I looked at the schedule and I was looking at Eastern Michigan and I was like, oh man, they're at Toledo late, at Buffalo late, at NIU late. And then I realized that last year they won 5 out of 6 on the road.
Yeah.
So it kind of negates itself. But who'd they beat on the road? How have they done in the past? Was it a fluky thing? What's the story on that? So Toledo, even though Eastern Michigan's good on the road, I mean, we're sitting here talking about Toledo being a potential New Year's team. We're talking about how good NIU should be. So at some point, I don't care how good you are on the road, you're playing a better team. And I think this is one year that's not normally this way in the MAC, and it'll probably turn out to be untrue in a couple of weeks. We'll find out. But I feel like this is a year when you've got 2 or 3 teams that are quite a bit better than the rest of the conference. But
yeah, I think the biggest thing for them is a lot of the guys that were there last year, they're back again. And there is something to having that experience, going on the road, winning big games. It does translate over. You've been there before, you've done it. And their defense, I think, is going to be really good this year, especially in the secondary. And going up against, Toledo, Ohio, teams that are really going to be able to throw the ball this year, having those guys in the back end, that could be what you need to hold these teams to, under 30 points. Because if you can do that and your offense gets rolling, you just never know.
You never know. They also have, I just want to do a name drop here. When we did top O lineman to watch, old Swaggy brought up Brian Dooley, big time draft pick out of Eastern Michigan. They lose a lot though up front. He's kind of the only sure thing up front. So that's a little bit of a question mark that's one of my reasons. You want to know how you win road games? Great offensive line.
Absolutely.
You want to know how you lose road games? Not so great offensive line. So they have a great lineman, but do they have?
Yeah.
We had the great philosopher Jimmy Ray Stevens one time said, when you have 5 individuals and you put them like a fist, can Eastern Michigan do that? I don't know. That's what we'll find out. That was right.
He also said procrastination. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that.
He said a lot of things. We got to do an episode.
He had some dirty ones.
We need this offseason. We need to do a just don't say anything else. Just go back and forth on quotes.
It'll have to be TVMA.
Yeah, we'll have to make that one TVMA. We'll get Josh Walker on here. We'll get Campbell on here. Nunez didn't get the pleasure of playing for Jimmy Ray, but yeah. I think we go 2 hours just back and forth on quotes. Anyway, so those are the question marks. Let's talk players to watch. Tip, I'm starting with you again. I'm not gonna allow you to make the Swaggy look like an idiot like you did last year. So you go first, and then Jess will make you look like an idiot.
I'm good with it.
Oh,
all right. So my player to watch this year is someone. While I was doing my research, I saw him up there as far as like stats goes. His stats were great. He wasn't the top of his position. He wasn't at the top of his position the year prior, but he stayed there and he's worked his way up the depth chart, and he should be the running back 1 this year. This is NIU's running back, Antario Brown. Last year, he had 110 carries for 689 yards and 7 touchdowns. And if you've heard me before with rushing stats, I am a huge fan of the yards per carry stat. And this guy ran for 6.3 yards per carry last year. So NIU's leading rusher from last season, Harrison Wally, he had 165 carries, almost 900 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. He's transferred to Wyoming. So Antario Brown should be the running back 1. And you have 165 carries from Wally from last season that has to go somewhere. And I think a majority of those should go to Antario Brown. Now, NIU did bring in Gavin Williams, who's a transfer running back from Iowa. But I think Antario Brown should be the running back 1, at least to start into the season. He's got his quarterback, Rocky Lombardi, back. He's healthy. They got their top wide receiver, Trayvon Rudolph. He's back and healthy this season. I think Antonio Brown could have a breakout season this year. My player to watch.
I mean, we're all high on NIU. Again, I think it's the best offensive line in the conference. And if you got Lombardi, you got a big time receiver in Rudolph. It should open things up for him. But I like it. Swag, who do you got player to watch?
I think they have the third best offensive line in the conference. Either way, I have 3. I'm going to make them real quick. Number 1, no brainer, player to watch. He's probably going to be sitting there front row for the Heisman with his blonde hair slicked back. I like Rocky Lombardi. Look out for him to take this conference over. But number 2, I feel like I'm probably going to steal this guy from you, Matt. But I like Akron this year. I like Akron because I like the running back they bringing in from Florida. The guy that was like a 5-star athlete that signed at Miami. And here he is, Lorenzo Lingard. Yeah. Now, he hasn't got a lot many stats. But hey, let's go up to Akron and let's let it shine, baby. Watch out for him. Let's see if this guy can turn his career around at Akron. Number 3, quarterback transfer from Indiana, Missouri, going to Bowling Green. I like this guy, Connor. I'm going to butcher his name.
Me too.
Connor Bazelak. The guy has over 7,000 career passing yards. He was a stud apparently at Missouri. Don't exactly know why he transferred. I didn't dig too much for that, but I know the guy has 36 touchdowns. He's what Bowling Green needs. So excited to see this guy come in and sling it a little bit, Matt.
I gotta tell you, you took 2 of my guys. Yeah, sorry. Lorenzo, I believe it's Lingard is the pronunciation for him.
What'd I say? Lingard?
Yes.
Lingard. Lingard.
Yes. Well, here's the thing about that.
Love that movie. Great movie. We can have a podcast about that, just about Pineapple Express the whole time.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing about him is he transferred from Miami to Florida, which in my opinion at this point is kind of an upgrade. So why, and he got a couple carries. I mean, so it wasn't like he was just sitting there not dressing or anything. He got a few carries, but he was a big time recruit out of high school. I remember seeing my South Florida Twitter. I mean, you would have thought it was 2001 and the Hurricanes won a national championship when that kid committed. And then,
well, why he's that makes more sense why he's transferring. Now, Connor, I didn't really understand, but him, I see a guy who's a star. And he's like, I got to get some plays here because I'm going to go to the league. And here's his chance going to Akron. Akron's like, come on. Anyway, we'll get the ball to you.
Akron, I think matter of fact, I think we talked about this on the CSC pod last year, how Akron should be the school like the FIU or the FAU that gets transfers because their high school area ought to be good. And so they got to be able to get guys.
2 of them. They got Drake Anderson as well.
And then Connor, you don't know how to say his last name either Bazelak.
Ballsack.
That's not it. I'm sure. He turns it over a bunch, so he's going to have to quit throwing picks if Bowling Green wants to have any shot at anything, especially with these other good quarterbacks.
I left his INT stats off.
That's how you make your point come across with your data. I want to talk about 2 guys also, just to add on to that. Ball State. We actually golfed with old Lane Hatcher down in San Marcos. He's a guy that has transferred all over the place. But I mean, the guy was at Alabama at one point. He's certainly got the talent. He's kind of, I think he's just getting, I don't like the transfer in every single season at all. Like, I think there's circumstances, and I think at some point you just got to stick it out. But he's definitely got the talent. And they lose Carson Steele to UCLA, who was probably the best running back in the MAC last year. But they get the second best running back in the MAC, Marquez Cooper from Kent State, who, by the way, Kent State, it's going to be rough sledding for you boys. Sorry. So Ball State, they got 2 really good tight ends. So Hatcher ought to have a good running game, 2 really good tight ends. I don't know, Jeff, what more could you ask for other than
2 quarterbacks, 2 best friends right there.
Yeah. So Ball State is kind of sneaky. And again, I don't think Lane Hatcher is up there with Rourke and Lombardi and Finn and these guys. But if it becomes week 8 and everybody in the MAC is 4-4 and a couple guys are injured or out, don't sleep on Ball State. Murph, who's your player to watch in the MAC?
All right. I got a couple and I'll go quick. The first one is out of Miami of Ohio. And I'm going to read some stats, but this is not the guy that I'm actually talking about. But in 2021, 59% completion percentage, 2,648 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 6 picks. That was Brett Gabbert's stats in 2021. Obviously, he was hurt all last year. Mac Hippenhammer is no more at Miami, right? So who's going to be the guy? 6'4", 217 pounds, Miles Marshall. I think this guy is going to be the number one for Gabbert this year, and he is going to get a ton of targets. I think look out for this guy. The ball's got to go somewhere, and I think a lot of it's going to go to him. My biggest worry is if they start putting double coverage over him because there's not a whole lot of proven talent else on that roster. I think they'll get some guys in. I think some guys will step up because of how much they're going to throw the ball. But Miles Marshall, keep an eye out for him. My defensive player, since we hadn't talked defense yet, Marcus Fuqua, Buffalo safety. Yeah. This guy's an absolute stud. I think he's going to lead that defense, and I think Buffalo is going to. They're gonna have a good season. I think they're gonna have some key big wins against big teams, and they're not gonna like this. Liberty better watch out because they play Buffalo, and Buffalo is not a pushover. They have gotten a lot better this year on both sides of the ball, but Fuqua leads that defense. 64 tackles, 7 picks last year. Look out for that guy. And then this is actually a transfer coming in. We don't know a lot about him, but he's going to Miami of Ohio. And same thing. Rashad Amos, a running back out of South Carolina, is transferring to Miami of Ohio. They don't really have a lot of proven running backs on that roster either. I think this is a name to keep an eye out for. If he gets the opportunity, I think that O-line's going to do a good job. 4 offensive linemen that have had starting experience coming back this year, so I think they're going to be decent up front. You got a good quarterback that can spin it. That's going to open up 5-6 man boxes in the run game. He should have some room, whoever that running back is, but Rashad Amos, it's a name to just keep an eye on.
Jeff, I want to actually, I'm not going to say it yet because it could be my dark horse, but yeah, I like it. I'm going to miss, the guys I miss in the MAC. I miss Mac Hippenhammer and Dustin Crum.
Oh, Dustin Arslanian?
Yeah, well, I would have talked about him all day long, except for they didn't grant him. They granted him a 6th year, and then they didn't grant him a 6th year, and then poor guy's going to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I think. I mean, that's how it happens. That's how quick it happens, by the way. Jesse's talking about be ready to play if your name is called. I'm going to tell you this, boys. Be ready to go put on your – they don't wear shirts and ties anymore, but be ready to put on your slacks and your golf polo shirt, tuck that thing in, sell some life insurance, sell some upgrades at the Enterprise Rent-A-Car because it's happening. It's going to happen to everybody. Very few of you are going to the NFL. You better figure out some customer service skills. Anyway, real quick, let's go around the horn. Biggest game. Actually, I lied to you. Any coaches on the hot seat, do you guys think?
I'll chime in.
Ooh.
I told you it's going to be all about NIU. You go from a season like that in 2021, and then you turn around and have such a losing, devastating season in 2022. If by some chance, which I don't think it's going to happen, 2023, he only pulls together 2 to 3 ball games, Hammock's on the hot seat.
See, I think, well, he
That's
might
a tough
be
situation though because of the injuries.
He might be
last
because
year.
he's
That's
got the
tough.
excuse of the injury
That's
bug,
fine.
and they
That's
won a
fine.
conference
That's
the year
fine.
before.
NIU has history. They want to win football games. I'm just saying, if he comes back 2 or 3 wins, he'll be in the hot seat. I don't think he's in the hot seat right now, so I don't really answer your question, but I am just throwing that out there.
Feeling a little warm. That's fair. Tip, what about you? Any coach on the hot seat? Or you can go the other way, any coach that if they rattle off 10 wins, heading to the Big Ten or something like that.
Oh, that's easy.
It's coaches on the hot seat. Ball State head coach Mike New. He's been there this is his 8th season as head coach. His overall record at Ball State is 33-48. Went 5-7 last year. Just missed a bowl game. But like you were talking about earlier, Sprouse, he's brought in some really good transfers. So I think that's really going to help them be competitive in the West Division. But if you have another season where they don't miss or they do miss a bowl game, there is a chance that he could be on the hot seat.
Murph?
I don't have a coach that's on the hot seat per se. I do think Chris Creighton at Eastern Michigan has done a fantastic job. He's in his 10th year, and 9-4 last year. If he has another 9 or 10 win season this year, I mean that's some really good records he's put out here recently. So, does he want to stay at Eastern Michigan? Does he maybe want to look for somewhere elsewhere to kind of climb the ranks? It'd be interesting to see. Excited to see our good friend Alex that's coming on here in a little bit, get his opinion on the coaching situation in the MAC.
Yeah, and I think where Jesse was saying that's easy, I think if Toledo wins 10-plus games, Jason Candle could be finding his way somewhere.
Can I light your candle?
Just embarrassing. I mean, no other way to say it. Continuing at the fast pace, biggest game of the year. I'll go first. It might be the same for everybody. September 30th, NIU at Toledo.
That's what I got. Go
Or
find
you
out
go,
real
or
quick.
you go October 28th, Halloween weekend. This game, by the way, sorry, I was just going to take everybody's. I know.
No, go for it. You're good.
Halloween weekend, Miami at Ohio, October 28th. That place is going to be, I mean, you're going to see all kinds of Halloween costumes. Very exciting stuff on a Saturday night there. But
What's the over-under? You see Bane in the background.
That's 100%. Yeah.
You always see some Jack's fraternity kid wearing Bane stuff.
Yeah.
I got another.
Go ahead, Tip. What you got?
I was just saying I got one more game, big game this year. Week 11, Eastern Michigan, the team we've been talking about a lot this podcast, goes to Toledo. The winner of that game
and gets that ass whipped.
Could end up winning the West Division. You never know.
And they're both coming off bye weeks, which is interesting. So they're going to have a week to get healthy. You know how beat up the MAC teams get, and an extra week to prepare for Toledo. I don't know.
Dark horse. Start with Tip. Who you got?
Well, Jesse, I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row where the Swag Bear has taken my dark horse pick. NIU got a lot of their players back healthy this year, as we've talked about. I've also talked about my player to watch this year, Ontario Brown. Their defense, they have some defensive starters coming back. Now, they need to improve a little bit on the defensive side of the ball in order to compete in the MAC this season, I believe. They have finished 10th or worst in the MAC in points allowed for 3 straight seasons. Their defensive line is the strength of this defense. They have the ability with the players there on the front to get possession, to get pressure on the quarterback from several different spots. James Esther, their defensive lineman, he's a preseason PPF All-MAC team player. They've lost a lot of key players, including 2 linebackers that combined for 126 tackles last season. Their leading tackler from last season, CJ Brown at safety, he is back. And they are bringing in some players from the transfer portal. Transfers from Virginia Tech and Kansas. Cornerback from Kansas, Cameron Dabney, should get some immediate playing time. And then the Virginia Tech transfer at linebacker, Keyshawn Artis. So look for those guys to come in and try and make an impact immediately on the defensive side of the ball. But you got these guys that we've talked about this. I'm just repeating myself. They won the conference 2 years ago. They got a lot of key starters hurt last season. They're all back. They're all healthy. This could be it. We've seen them do it before. Now, I did mention, I think it was the MAC preseason show last season of how many games they won. They were 1 score games. Now, is it possible that they have to have those kind of games go their way? There's going to be a lot of close games where this offense is just going to have to just score more points to the other team to win the game. Is there going to be more of those close games this year? We will see, but I think this is a team that, like we've mentioned, we've seen them do it before. They can absolutely do it again, and they are my dark horse to win the MAC this year.
I like it. Swaggy?
Tyler, just the tip. Tipton pretty much took everything out of my mouth. I was going to say, I think that NIU is definitely the dark horse. I will talk about them even later in the show. But when I think of dark horses, I think of a dark horse unexpected record. Look out for Akron. Akron, they're 9-47 so far since 2017 when they went to the MAC championships. They've been struggling. Bounce back year for them. Not dark horse to where, oh wow, these guys may make it to a New Year's Bowl. I'm saying bounce back, dark horse. Wow, they got 6 wins on their schedule this year. So I like Akron.
I like that. Murph, what do you got?
Yeah, Akron was my dark horse. If DJ Irons can stop throwing interceptions, he can be an X factor, and he can do it with his legs, he can do it with his arm, and he's got plenty of weapons around him. Defense has got to get more pressure on opposing quarterbacks, especially in the MAC this year. But Akron Zips, they're a team that nobody's really looking at. They could knock off some teams and shake up that MAC division.
Well, I'm actually surprised nobody went with this. Murphy touched on this team a little bit earlier. Buffalo Bulls, I have as a dark horse. I think Cole Snyder gets overlooked in this conference, but I think he's very good. Threw for over 3,000 yards last year, 18 touchdowns, and started all 13 games, which cannot be said for any of the other top quarterbacks in this conference. It's also all about Buffalo's O-line for me, and I guess I can't get this out of my head. When Tip and I went to the worst bowl game in the history of bowl games, the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, that game, yes, Justin Marshall, love the guy. He went off, had a great game. But at the end of the game, when Buffalo needed to put that thing away, their O-line was dominant. I'm talking about putting guys on their back late, 3-4 minutes left in the game, just absolutely dominated Georgia Southern's defensive line. And maybe I'm just, on paper, they don't have a ton of draft picks, anything like that. But what I witnessed, the eye test, I like that O-line. And I think Buffalo is going to give a lot of teams a lot of trouble this fall. But guys, we went on for a little bit long there. We want to get Alex from the CSC podcast coming up next. Dude was at MAC Media Days all week, interviewed, I think, every single head coach in the MAC. So we got him coming up next. Before we do that, we got to talk about Prize Picks. You guys download the app, use our code GOFG. It's an acronym for Group of Five Guys, in case you didn't know. They will match your first-time deposit up to $100. So if you put in $100, they'll give you an extra free $100 to play with. I said it last week. It's Taco Tuesday. Baseball season, you're getting pitchers that normally are at 5.5 strikeouts. You're getting them at 3.5 strikeouts right now on your daily fantasy app. Alex, CSC podcast, Maction. You've been at MAC Media Days. What is the overall theme of MAC Media Days? Is it quarterback play like we've been talking about?
I'll be honest with you guys. I'm hearing you talk about quarterbacks, and I think the theme's going to be a lot more defense this year, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. Talk to a couple coaches, and they're really excited about their defensive side of the ball this year. I know Jason Candle from Toledo. He was talking about trying to replace guys, and he's like, "Look, we've got an All-American on our defense. Like, you can rally around that." And Quinyon Mitchell, the guy who had 4 picks against NIU last year, I think he finished the year with 5 picks, a couple tutties. Like, he's a clear playmaker, right? And so I look at, and that's just one example, but I think defense is going to be very big for the MAC this year. I mean, you've got a lot of great non-conference games. Toledo travels to Illinois. Ball State takes on a couple of SEC teams, which we know how that goes for Ball State. Unfortunately, last year at Tennessee, I was down there for that one. That was they've got a nice stadium. They've got a nice stadium.
Not a nice visitor's locker room, though, if you were listening earlier.
I was, yeah. And I'll defer to you guys on that one. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be really, really defensive heavy. I think the question mark is quarterbacks in this league this year, not because they're not proven, but it's what do you do with the other quarterbacks who now have experience? You talked about Miami, Ohio earlier, getting Brett Gabbert back. What do you do with Avion Smith?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get both guys on the field, that's huge. Toledo lost Taquan Finn to injury for a little bit last year. Tucker Gleason came in, broke his hand, still kept playing. You look at what Ohio did, Curtis Rourke, you lose him to the ACL injury, and then CJ Harris steps in and saved the bowl game. He looked pretty good. I think they had to limit the playbook a little bit, but I talked to Coach Albin about that, and he says, if we can get both those guys in on a Wildcat, watch out. Lane Hatcher, I think you guys mentioned him earlier for Ball State. Mike New's excited about him. Mike New all but named him the starter at Mac Media Day, so that was very interesting. I know I don't want to get the last name, or I don't want to get the name wrong, but Keel Kelly, I believe, is the other guy who is contending for that job. It looks like it's Lane Hatcher's to lose, but when you got a guy who transfers in, has over 10,000 passing yards, kind of hard to not give him the keys to the Ferrari.
What about I read, so Jordan Lynch's little brother at NIU is moving away from quarterback, right? So I know Dick was talking about the running back spot at NIU. Is he going to get carries?
So that was an interesting one, and that was one I brought up to Coach Hammock when I spoke to him. I said, what's going on with this situation? And Coach Hammock said that Justin Lynch came to him and said, Coach, I know that I can be more serviceable elsewhere. I want to be a running back. And he has been making that transition. So Hammock seems pretty confident that he's going to have some touches and some opportunities to help the offense out. But that was kind of the shocker that I got out of Media Day, was that he is going to be participating as a running back this season, not a quarterback. That being said, wouldn't be surprised to see him in a few Wildcats and, a few options, things like that, because again, he's got the experience under center. I mean, I think half the student population in Northern Illinois has experience at quarterback now. But he's got that experience. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Hammock throw a few mixes and matches with him.
I saw you posted your schedule. So you're hitting every MAC school this year, huh?
I've got that pulled up right here. I'm going to be tired, boys. I'm going to be real honest with you.
Yeah,
that's a lot of traveling. I've got, I didn't even count them up. So AJ, my co-host, lives out in Colorado, so he's only going to be able to make one game. He's going to NIU at Nebraska, which he says should be a great time. They always have a nice facility. But yeah, everything else, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 games that I will be attending this fall.
That's big time.
Thank you, midweek action.
Yeah.
Is there any particular game that you kind of got, circled or penciled in that you're just super excited about? Maybe it's a matchup you haven't seen, or just because it's a big matchup in the season. Is there one or two that you kind of got, dialed in?
There's a couple, actually. I'm Iowa State at Ohio. Ohio is 0-8 against Iowa State all time. 0-1 at Peden Stadium down there in Athens. I really think that Iowa State takes a little bit of a step back this year. This is a very winnable game for the Bobcats. And I say that after knowing the score of last year's game. But I really think that there's an opportunity here for Ohio. So I've got that one circled. And then 2 of the October games I'm going to back-to-back weeks, Toledo at Miami, Ohio. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Might be a preview of the MAC championship, depending on how the chips fall out. But then the following week, I think it's the de facto MAC East championship, Miami, Ohio, at Ohio, Battle of the Bricks. Those are two really good games in back-to-back weeks that I think we're going to see some good football.
I didn't realize that about Miami's schedule. I'm just looking at it now. They got to play Toledo and then Ohio back-to-back. Something to look at there.
One at home, one on the road. So, I mean, they do get the advantage of that.
Yeah.
Toledo's schedule, talking about the Rockets, all of September they're at home. And then everything's on the road, it seems like. So Toledo's going to have to become, I think you guys mentioned road warriors earlier and what Eastern Michigan did last year. But Toledo's going to have to become that this year. Now there's a big target on the back because they're defending champs.
Well, you mentioned defending champs. I think it's time, boys. I think we need to make predictions. I think we need to pick a winner. Also, I had this highlighted on my notes here. I just want to mention it. All-time name, center for Ohio, Parker Titsworth.
Where's number 69 too?
Big
Of course he
time.
does.
Of course
Of
he
course
does.
he does. And here's the other thing. You know what? I don't know this guy at all, but he's listed at 6'1", 284. So, right, he's a little bit undersized. He's got a name, Titsworth, and he wears number 69. You know exactly what kind of guy he is just by that right there. You and I just, hey, shout out to the guy, Parker. Love you, buddy. Awesome.
I started blacking out. That's a great. That's a guy that I wish that I went back in time, or we're the same age. I feel like that guy. I don't care. He drinks beer. There's no doubt about it.
Did we have anybody on our team with an all-time name like that? I don't think so.
Oh God,
I don't think we did. We'll have to think about
Judd. I don't know.
Sorry, I had to bring that up. Sorry for
Parker's great. I don't know if
Of course
you
he
guys
knows him.
I don't know if you guys heard his interview after the Barstool Bowl last year. But it just seems like the salt of the earth kind of person too. Like, just seems like he's just nothing but a genuinely good dude, but knows how to have a good time.
Absolutely. Got to with that name.
Oh yeah.
You have to. Yeah. Well, it's time to pick championship and a winner. We'll let Alex go last. I hope that we are not all on the same page here, but we might be.
We're not.
Oh boy. Oh, Swaggy's got something. Tip, I'm starting with you, pal. Who you got? Who's playing for it? Who's winning it?
So I am probably crazy for doing this with how crazy the MAC is every single year, and how, I want to say like inconsistent, but just how crazy it is, and just how these teams just beat up on each other all year. And most of the time you don't see the same teams in the conference championship game. But I'm going to say it's going to be a repeat of last year's conference championship game. I think it's going to be Ohio versus Toledo. And this year, though, with a healthy Curtis Rourke playing in this game, I have Ohio beating Toledo, and I have Ohio as the MAC champions.
Wow. Curtis Rourke MVP, probably?
Yes.
All right. Swag?
This is the MAC conference. This is not Conference USA, where you're going to have Western Kentucky just dominate. This is, again, the MAC conference, where you're going to have teams that you are now saying that are going to be potential New Year's bound that will probably walk away with 6 or 7 wins. I like, out of the East, I like Miami, Ohio. I think Miami, Ohio has the best defense in the MAC. I think that Brett Gabbert is going to come back with a vengeance. He is going to have a stellar season. The O-line will struggle, but I think that the defense is going to keep them in games. It's going to be hard to score on this team. I like Miami, Ohio making it to the championship game. Out of the West, I think when it comes down to NIU and Toledo, I think NIU is going to take the upper hand. Rocky Lombardi will be in the championship game against Miami, Ohio, against the best defense in the MAC, and Rocky Lombardi will thrive. Rocky Lombardi will be the MVP. Rocky Lombardi will go sit there in New York City, and he'll be there looking for the Heisman. Will he get the Heisman? No, he'll come in third place because he's in the MAC, but he'll be there on Heisman Saturday. NIU wins the MAC.
Book it.
Book it.
Can NIU send their second quarterback all time to New York for the Heisman? Wouldn't that be something? With his brother on the team.
Yeah.
Murph, what do you got, pal?
He took the words right out of my mouth. I think, and as crazy as it does sound, I think Toledo and I think Ohio are both the most complete teams, and they have the 2 best quarterbacks in this conference on their team. So as long as they stay healthy, I think it's a rematch last year. And I'm telling you, I think Curtis Rourke is a stud, and I think he's going to prove it to everybody. And I think he deserves to be on some Heisman watch lists, and he's going to put up, and a name we have not mentioned, the 1-2 connection with him and Sam Wiglus. Man, watch that kid run routes. It's absolutely incredible. He's going to be the next big receiver that nobody's heard of going in the NFL, and he's going to make a roster, and he's going to make some noise. But I think Ohio Bobcats win the MAC championship.
What makes a good route runner? Because I feel like I could run 5 yards, turn right. Like, look at that guy. Look at that guy. He
It
took you
has, it
stuck
has
right there at
nothing.
the 5
It
yard
has,
line.
it has
took right,
nothing to
boom.
do. It has nothing to do with you running 5 yards and turning it around. It's as
So
far
10
as setting
yards, 10 yards,
setting
10
up
yard scroll.
setting up defenders the way you run routes, and then coming in and out of breaks, and then hands.
With your eyes?
Huh?
Like with your eyes? Like he thinks they're going to go right
In
on
my
the
head,
left?
fake Jesse. Hey,
I just really think offensive linemen, we don't have the bodies for it, but I think that we could be good receivers if we were fast because I don't think there's that much to it. Besides,
my
getting
favorite-
hit, I understand that. I mean,
My favorite.
I can run routes on air. I can
My
run routes.
favorite time of the week was when the pregame, or was it the day before the game? We do walkthroughs,
Fat
and
Man
you
football?
guys, Fat Man Football.
Yeah, that was
well, let me tell you, when you're
we were
walking,
fantastic.
your routes have to be more precise because you're not going to run away from anybody. You have to mentally beat the defensive back with your route.
It's just one of those things. Like when I always see like in the summertime, like, oh yeah, we're training extensively with our receiving core. The receivers are running on air. Like I'm like, okay, I can do that too. You know, I mean, like I can.
It's so
I can do
much
that.
more. It's so much more than that, Jesse. So much more.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway, I am with you guys. I think Toledo versus Ohio. I think Toledo's going to repeat, and I think that. Well, I just think their defense is too good. I feel like I had that same thought last year, honestly, but I think both offenses are good. Both quarterbacks are good. Finn is a game changer. That game, that Toledo Notre Dame game was on, or I might have YouTubed it or something. And that guy's special, man. He's a freaking. When you think about like a group of 5 team that has a chance to make a special run, it's a quarterback like that can do it because there's such a problem for whoever they play, no matter how good somebody is. And I like Toledo. I'm looking at Illinois. What did we talk about last week? We talked about can Western Kentucky make a run? And we're like, well, their Power 5 game is Ohio State. Not happening, probably. What did we say? We said Ohio State ain't Illinois.
Yeah.
Toledo could go into Illinois and win that game. So I like Toledo a lot. I think they repeat. I think they beat Ohio in a really, really good game. And, we got to get up to MAC country this year at some point, whether it be to Detroit. Detroit would be awesome, catch a championship game. But we got to get up there. Alex, put us all in our place. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to give you boys a little history lesson first.
Please do.
Perfect.
So there has not been a repeat MAC champion since 2011, 2012. 2 different quarterbacks, Chandler Harnish, and then Mr. Heisman finalist himself, Jordan Lynch. Northern Illinois attended 5 straight MAC championships, lost 2 of 3 to Bowling Green, preventing them from winning, 5 straight. But I digress.
Say it.
I think it's Miami versus Toledo.
Oh.
I think Miami takes it. I think Miami has the best defense in the conference. I think that we will see Toledo beat Miami in the regular season.
Ooh.
And just like we saw with Kent State versus NIU 2 years ago when Kent State beat Northern Illinois in the regular season, Northern Illinois turned it back on, beat them in the MAC championship. I think we're going to see the same thing here because Chuck Martin knows how to game plan. I think he's a very smart coach. I think Jason Candle also very, very smart coach. It's going to be a good game, but I think Miami ekes it out less than 7 points. I don't have a real prediction on points yet. I want to see the teams play, but I think it's going to be Miami, Toledo. Round 2, electric boogaloo. This time the Redhawks fly away with the victory.
So we're the only ones that had Miami in the championship game. So
We
what
are.
you're telling me is that I know more about MAC football than these
It was.
kids.
You probably do.
Except
I have
we
NIU
all
beating
had-
Miami.
You do. You do have NIU beating Miami.
Book it.
It was. It was
Anyway.
close.
Yeah.
I'm gonna trust Rourke over Gabbert, and with his injury history, it's you just never know. But I
Hey,
think
I have-
Miami's very, very good.
I
Hashtag
have
put
a
a put a
question.
cork in Rourke. He's done, right? Brett Gabbert all the way.
If it helps, I know AJ has selected Toledo to repeat as champs with another victory over Ohio. So it's he's saying it's going to be a rematch from last year. I just think, Curtis Rourke, I'm worried about the ACL. I know Tim Albin told me at Media Day he's ahead of schedule. I know Coach Hammock told me that Rocky is ahead of schedule. it's you can say all those things, you can
Yeah.
do all those things until you're actually in game. You don't actually really know where you're at. Practices, you simulate a few things to avoid the hits.
Yeah.
You don't know where you're really at until you're actually in the game.
Yeah.
Did Alex, not to bring something else up, we talked about it earlier. Did Coach Albin say anything about how they're going to play those first 4 or 5 weeks of the year? Like, are they going all in? They're trying to win every game, or are they trying to win the MAC? Like, do you or what do you think?
So based off of what I kind of talked to him about at Media Day and just kind of the conversation we had, which will be up later this week, by the way, it just seemed like he's just excited to get back out there. You know, he's excited about Iowa State. It's Matt Campbell's first return to the Mid-American Conference since he left Toledo back in 16. So this is his first return trip. Sorry, 15, 16 season, whatever. So this is his first trip back. So I know he's excited. He's excited to have Curtis back. He's confident in his team. You know, he knows that they've got something special down there in Athens. And you know, he didn't give me any real insider scoop, if you will, but I know that he's ready to get the guys back out there. I mean, they went undefeated at Peden last year. I mean, they had a 7-game win streak in the Mid-American Conference after an overtime loss to Kent State. I really think that this is a good team, but again, it's the MAC. They're going to beat each other up. That's what always happens every year. I think last year, you know, was their chance. I don't know that that's the case this year. You know, Say Bangura is fantastic in the backfield. Curtis Rourke, excellent quarterback, but I think that you got to be a little gentle with Curtis until you know really where he's at.
I got one more question for you, Alex.
Ask away.
Sean Lewis. Is he going to be at Sean Lewis?
Yes.
Is he going to be at Colorado longer than he was at Kent State? Or has he made a terrible decision?
I think he made the worst career decision he could have made. I think Kent State was a good place for him to build. Another year or two at Kent State would have done him wonders. I love Sean Lewis, you know, great guy, great coach. But I think he was one of those guys who got caught in the flashy lights and the big name and the big brands. And I mean, Coach Prime calls you, you say yes. I mean, let's just say, you know, say what it is.
Yeah.
I think he got caught a little early and caught kind of seeing the lights a little bit, because I think Kent State's going to really struggle this year. And I don't think they would have struggled as much had he stayed.
They got absolutely crushed in the portal. I mean, they lost everything. Yeah, you know, Cooper to Ball State. They lose Cephas to Penn State. Their other two receivers went to West Virginia and North Carolina.
Isaac Vance is he transferred out as well. And I know he didn't have a lot of playing time. He's a personal friend of the show. But I mean, that's another receiver gone. Like they're one of 6 schools that has to replace their starting quarterback, running back, and number 1 wide receiver in the country this year. I think they're one of 3 that has to replace all 11 starters on offense.
Wow.
And that doesn't happen if Sean Lewis stays.
I don't think so.
I mean, they might lose Cephas. Like, you know, Penn State comes calling with a bunch of money. Sure.
You don't lose Cooper to an in-conference transfer.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. Well, Alex, before we let you go, plug your podcast, plug your socials. Where can everybody find you? I know you were at Mac Media Day, so you interviewed every coach. So you're going to have a lot of good content coming out in the next few days.
Yeah, a lot of good content coming out. We just released the interviews with Jason Candle, the head coach at Toledo, and the athletic director over at Toledo, Brian Blair. Quick, short 20-minute little thing there. And each of my interview segments, I'm kind of bundling them with another person. So I'll probably bundle Ohio and Miami together, throw the rivals together. But yeah, those were great, you know, great opportunity to the Mid-American Conference. Thank you to Jeremy Guy as well for, you know, letting that happen for us. But yeah, you guys can follow us over on Twitter at College Sport Pod. The Twitter handles CSC Pod and CSC Podcast are taken by accounts that haven't tweeted in 6 years. It's fine. Fix it, Elon. You can follow us. Right. Yeah. Sorry. X. You can follow us over on Instagram at the CSC Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. And then our website as well, the CSCpodcast.com. Got some cool stuff rolling out, including a mobile app. I won't advertise that too much here, but I think it's going to be a game changer for the Mid American Conference.
No, your app. I mean, some of the stuff you've posted on Twitter, the app looks. I mean, it looks sick, man. Yeah, you're doing a good job. I don't know if that's you or you got a developer of some sort.
That's all me. I'm sweating every time I try something because it breaks more often than it works. So
no, that's big time, man. Congrats on that. And dude, you're gonna have a hell of a fall. So get some rest. Thank you for coming on, and we'll have to link up at some point during the season.
Check back in. Yeah, see how the season's travel's been going.
Check in.
You guys are welcome up
4-4.
here.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome up here anytime. Let me know if you guys wander on up. We'll I'll try to adjust the schedule to meet up, or I'll tell you, hey, this is where I'm at this week, and see what we can't make happen. But no, thank you guys for the opportunity. Love talking Maction. Love this conference, and love what you guys do to
appreciate it.
Yeah, no question. You guys follow Alex, follow CSC Pod. Thank you so much for joining. That's all we got for you guys tonight. Of course, if you like the show, we need your help. We need you to go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us a 5-star rating and review, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your family and friends about us. You can follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys, or you can go to groupof5guys.com, get you some swag. A lot of new updates coming to groupof5guys.com, by the way. So we'll start plugging that once we get that thing rolling. New merch, a lot of new information, all that good stuff. You guys keep calling the hotline, 615-900-4286. We got Conference USA preview last week. You got this one this week. We got Mountain West next week, American the following, Sun Belt after that. And then it is week 0. We have arrived. Group of Five Guys, we are out of here.